So we have seen the radiation source. In the radiation source there are two electrolyte discharge lamp and second one halo cathode lamp. Now we are moving to the next part, that is the atomization unit. It consists of two atomizers, either flame atomizer or electrothermal atomizer. This flame atomizer is either total consumption burner as well as the laminar flow burner. So main disadvantage regarding the flame atomizer is large portion of sample flows down the drain and the residence time in the optical path is very short. It is generally less than 10 raised to minus 4 seconds. So these are the main two disadvantages which are associated with the flame atomizer. Okay, so this is the electrothermal atomizer. In the electrothermal atomizer, light is passed through this part. Here light is absorbed, so here sample is added. So this light passes, it fall on this sample. The sample absorbs some of the radiations and remaining radiations they are emitted or they are transmitted. So this electrothermal atomizer is made up of a metal jacket. Inside a graphite tube is present. So here discharge lamp present, water present. For the gas it is entry for the gas as well as the water. So heat तैयार होते, that's why entry for the water, exit for the water to cooling or for the cooling of the electrothermal atomizer. So it is also called as a graphite furnace. Okay, you can observe in this way the light passes and the samples enters. So this light fall on the, here there is a falling of light on the sample takes place. Okay, so electrothermal atomizer is also called as the graphite furnace. So it consists of a hollow graphite tube of 5 cm long and 1 cm internal diameter. The tube is open at both ends and has a central hole to introduce sample by micropipette. So tube is open from both ends. From here we can add a sample using the micropipette. This tube is arranged in such a way that the radiation from the source passes along the axis of tube, and two electrodes they are fitted at the end of tube. The inner gas, like in neon or argon, they are allowed to flow over the tubes to avoid the oxidation of graphite. Okay, the tube is surrounded by the water for the cooling purpose. So here you can observe, here water is added. So this is water, it is present at the surroundings for the cooling purpose. The solution of sample to be analyzed is introduced by using the micropipette to the port in the outer jacket and gas inlet in the center of graphite tube. Then graphite cylinder is heated by the passing the electric current or the voltage to a temperature that is enough to evaporate the solvent from the solution. Then current is increased. These are the stages in the electrothermal atomizer: drying stage, etching stage and atomization stage. So in the drying stage, the temperature of furnace maintained above the boiling point. For example, solution of furnace temperature is adjusted to the 383 Kelvin for the 30 seconds. देन सॉल्व्हंट अंडरगो इव्हॅपोरेशन. जे सॉल्व्हंट आहे आपण सोल्युशन वापरतो, बरोबर आहे. सोल्युशनमध्ये सपोज सोडियम क्लोराईड सोल्युशन आहे. सो सोडियम क्लोराईड अलॉंग विथ द सॉल्व्हंट इट इज present. So the solvent which is present, it must be undergo the evaporation so that the sodium chloride it will remain in the residue form. So that is the main function in the drying stage. Second one is the etching stage. Temperature is double, generally it is maintained at 600 Kelvin to 1500 Kelvin for the period of 41 seconds. ह्याच्यामध्ये काय होतं, ऑर्गॅनिक सबस्टन्स volatile and other chemical matrix of sample is destroyed. सपोज 4-5 मेटल आहेत, त्यापैकी एकच डिटेक्ट करायचं, तर एकच जो मेटल आहे तो volatile होतो आणि बाकीचे जे सॅम्पल आहे ते डिस्ट्रॉय केले जाते. आणि थर्ड अँड फायनल स्टेज इज द ॲटोमायझेशन स्टेट. त्याच्यामध्ये टेम्परेचर 2300 ते 3300 पर्यंत ठेवलं जातं. आणि गॅसेस ॲटम ऑफ मेटल्स दीज आर फॉर्म. सो दिस इज अबाउट दी stages in the electrothermal atomizer. So atomizer, their function is the conversion of atom into the molecule into the atom, okay, or the separation of atom. So there are two types: flame atomizer, electrothermal atomizer. So we have completed this electrothermal atomizer. This flame atomizer we will see in the next lecture. The next part is the plasma sources. Okay, so what is the plasma? Plasma actually the high temperature source of ionized source gas. Okay, so gas source आहे त्याच्यापासून जे हाय टेम्परेचर सोर्स तयार होतो, it is called as the plasma. Okay, generally it is due to the argon. Okay, so the plasma is defined as it is the mixture of atom ions and electrons which are present in the gases or in the gaseous form at very high temperature. So at very high temperature the argon is converted into the ionized source gas. This is called as the plasma. So this plasma which is created is sustained and maintained by inductive coupling from cool electrical coils at megahertz frequencies. So this source temperature is in the range of 6000 to 10,000. So what is plasma? Plasma is the high temperature source and it is made up of ionized source gas. So the plasma is defined as high temperature source made up of ionized source gas. Generally the ionized source gas is the argon. Okay, so plasma source is defined as high temperature source of ionized gas, or it is defined as homogeneous mixture of gases, atom ions and electrons at a very high temperature. Okay, so there are generally this plasma, how it is generated. So plasma is generated by heating a matter to the high temperature, which consists of ions, atoms and charged particles. Okay, so any matter, if we heat it at a high temperature, at that time the plasma is generated. So plasma is generated by the mixture of different species such as ions, atoms, charged particles, electrons. So the high temperature which is generated at the beginning of plasma process gives a continuous emission that marks the sharp lines from individual atom species. Okay, so there are two types of plasma source. That is the plasma is generated, that is the high temperature, it is the high temperature source. How it is generated? So it is generated by two methods. One method is the inductively coupled plasma. Second one is the direct coupled plasma, the direct current plasma. So inductively coupled plasma, it is called as ICP, and the direct current plasma, it is called as DCP. Then we will move to the first source, that is the direct current plasma. It is also called as DCP. So what is direct current plasma? So it is the type of plasma source. Okay, it is used for atomic emission spectroscopy, that is the emission spectroscopy, that utilizes three electrodes to produce plasma stream. So it consists of three electrodes. So most common three electrodes which are present in the direct current plasma, it is the two graphite anodes blocks and tungsten anode block. Sorry, tungsten cathode. Okay, so two graphite anode and third one tungsten cathode block. They are generally arranged in the Y shape. So you can observe these are arranged in the Y shape. Okay, so that is the arrangement of the three electrodes which are present in the direct current plasma. So it consists of three electrodes, two electrodes, these are the graphite anodes, and third one, that is the tungsten cathode. Okay, and they are generally arranged in the form of Y shape. And the argon gas source is generally situated between anode blocks. Okay, so there is a argon gas source are present. These are the anode blocks. They are situated. The argon glass source in the anode blocks and argon gas flows through the anode blocks. The plasma stream which is produced by the contracting the cathode and anode. So this cathode and this anode, between them the plasma stream is produced. Okay, so temperature at the earth exceed more than 8,000, this 5,000 to 10,000 Kelvin. It is the temperature which is present due to production of these, due to the three electrodes which are present. So there are several disadvantages are present with respect to the inductively coupled plasma. So it having the lower sensitivity as well as the spectra generated by this DCP present fewer spectral lines, and the samples are often incompletely volatile due to the short amount of time, as well as this DCP requires more regular upkeep than the ICP because the graphite electrodes wear out after a few hours. So it must be the exchange of these graphite electrode takes place. So it is necessary to upkeep that DCP or the exchange that cathode block, as well as they having some advantages over ICP. The amount of argon gas which is needed in DCP is less than the ICP, and also DCP analyze sample that have higher percentage of solid in solution that cannot be handled by ICP. So there are some advantages are there. So there are some disadvantages are there. So first disadvantage is what? The main disadvantages is that it having the lower sensitivity. Sensitivity कमी असते. Then second disadvantage is that the spectra generated by DCP present fewer spectral lines. It is the second. Third one, the samples are incompletely volatile due to the short amount of time. Then fourth one, it requires more upkeep because the cathode block which is used as the cathode, it generally wear out after a few hours. So it is need to be the exchange. So these are the 3-4 disadvantages of direct current plasma as compared to the inductively coupled plasma, as well as they have some advantages. What is the advantages? So argon gas which is provided is less as compared to the ICP. Also DCP can analyze samples that have higher percentage of solid in the solution. So these are some advantages over the ICP. Okay, so this is about the direct current plasma. This is the diagram for the direct current plasma. It consists of three electrodes, two graphite electrodes through which argon flows, and this is third one is the cathode block. So they are generally present in the Y shape. This is the plasma column where the plasma generation takes place. So in short, this solid sample, this deposited on one of the electron and discharge between this electrode sputters the sample atoms, and it will result into the formation of plasma. For that, support of gas, that is the argon gas, is necessary for the production of plasma. Okay, then we are moving to the second one, that is the ICP. So it is also called as the inductively coupled plasma, or it is also called as the transformer coupled plasma. So it is the type of plasma source in which the energy is supplied by the electric currents which are produced by EMR, that is the EMI, electromagnetic induction, that is by the magnetic field. So magnetic field is changed, and due to the change in the magnetic field, that is the electromagnetic induction is created, and this electromagnetic induction provides the energy, and this energy is responsible for the generation of plasma source. So here you can observe there is a generation of plasma source. So this RF coil, radio frequency coils are present. These are responsible for the varying the magnetic field, and when the magnetic field is varied, the generation of electromagnetic induction takes place, and it is results into the formation of plasma. So what is plasma? It is partially ionized gas. It contains a very high concentration of ion electrons and different atoms. So argon ions once formed in the plasma are capable of absorbing sufficient power from external source to maintain the temperature. Okay, so this temperature is generally 10,000 Kelvin. So in the ICP, inductively coupled plasma, it is also called as the transformer coupled plasma. The temperature is created, or the energy is created by the electromagnetic induction. So this electromagnetic induction is due to the radio frequency coil, which are responsible to change the radio frequency, and due to the changing in the this radio frequency, it generates the electromagnetic induction, which are responsible to produce the plasma. So this plasma can be generated by directing the energy of radio frequency into suitable gas called as ICP argon. Okay, so RF coil is there, gas is there. So this gas, when enters due to the radio frequency, it generated into the ICP argon, that is the inductively coupled plasma argon. This generates the enough energy to ionize more argons by the collision or by the excitation, and these electrons generated in the magnetic field are accelerated to the perpendicular, and it will result finally into the plasma. So that is the working of this ICP plasma. Now next part is regarding the interferences which occurs in the flame photometry. Okay, so what is interference actually? So interference means there is a, we are analyzing the sample which is present in the mixture. So in atomic absorption spectroscopy, what happens if a more number of metals or the atoms which are present in the given mixture, you have to find out a single metal and its concentration, or it we have to analyze a single metal out of the mixture. Then it is possible with the help of atomic absorption spectroscopy. Okay, so if we radiate the specific wavelength, and that specific wavelength is absorbed by the only that specific atom. Okay, specific wavelength for gold, if we have radiating, generally gold will absorb this, other will not absorb this. So it is easy to find out the concentration of a single or the individual molecule which is present in the given mixture. But sometimes it is not possible in the case of flame photometry. That is the disadvantage of flame photometry. If the mixture is present, so one atom or the one metal atom can be interfere with the detection of other atom. If gold is present, so the with the gold there is a sodium or others are present, in they may interfere with the determination or the identification of the gold. Okay, so that is the main problem which are regarded with the flame photometry, that is the interference. That means interference of the one metal or one atom with the other atom which is to be detected or which is to be analyzed. Okay, so that is the interference. So there are different types of interference. One of these is the chemical interference. Okay, so sometimes presence of thermally stable compound, they are not totally decomposed by the energy of flame. Okay, so if such cases takes place, if it is not totally decomposed, so chemically it interfere with the substance which to be determined. Okay, so suppose 100 gram of sodium is there, and we have to determine this sodium, their concentration we have to determine, that is the 100 gram, we don't know it is 100 gram, but we have to determine the concentration of sodium. So what happens, the specific wavelength for the sodium we are sending, so this specific wavelength falls on the sodium. So below sodium there is a sample, there is a flame is present, so this flame is responsible for the conversion of the sodium or the atom into the vapor state. Okay, so when it undergo vaporization, when vapors are formed, in this electromagnetic radiations they fall on the sample, and some of the radiations they are absorbed, others are emitted. Okay, so in case of flame photometry, what happens, when the flame is there above the sample. So this is the sample. Okay, so here there is a presence of sample. Below that there is a flame. So when the flame is provided, if thermally stable compound is there, so it will not undergo decomposition completely, or it will not undergo the vaporization completely. So if suppose for example X is the compound which to be determined, it is 100 gram. So if 100 gram is present, it has to be converted into the vapor state. But due to its thermal stability, what happens? And out of 100 gram, only 60 gram or 40 gram or 50 gram, it will be vaporized. Only that atoms or the vaporized atom, it will absorb the radiations. And we are getting the information regarding that vaporized atom. So which is not decomposed, which is not converted into the vapor form. The concentration of these residue we cannot determine. Okay, so that is one of the interference. It is called as the chemical interference. So the reading changes, or we are not get the accurate readings. Why? Due to the thermally stable substance which will not decompose completely. Okay, that is the first part. Okay, that means presence of thermally stable compound, it is not totally decomposed by the energy of the फ्लेम. सो ज्या फ्लेमची एनर्जी आपण चूज करतो त्यानं ते पूर्णपणे डिकम्पोज होत नाही, त्याचं वेपोरायझेशन होत नाही, आणि त्यामुळे कम्प्लिटली जे 100% ड्रग आहे, 100% जो मेटल आहे त्याचं आपण डिटर्मिनेशन करू शकत नाही. सेकंड वन, हाय फ्लेम टेम्परेचर प्रोव्हाइड्स एनर्जी फॉर ब्रेकडाउन ऑन इंटरफरन्स. That is the second part of chemical interference. Third one, addition of a releasing agent which reacts with the interference. So these are some interference takes place. That is the addition of releasing agent. If we are adding, it will react with the interference. Okay, so what is actually the chemical interference? So the chemical interference is a reaction between the different interference and the analyte. It includes ओके, जे ॲनालाइट जे तुम्हाला डिटरमाइन करायचं आहे, आणि जे मिक्सचरमधले बाकीचे सॅम्पल प्रेझेंट असतात ते इंटरफेअर करतात. दॅट इज द इंटरफरन्स. सो त्यांच्यामधली जी रिॲक्शन असते, दॅट रिॲक्शन इज कॉल्ड एज द केमिकल interference. That is the chemical interference arises due to the reaction between the different interference with the analyte. आणि त्याच्यामध्ये काय काय येतं? Cation and anion interference. Okay, so the presence of certain anions, okay, such as oxalate, phosphate, sulfate. Anions means negatively charged species. So when such negatively charged species are present, such as oxalates, phosphate or sulfate in a solution, it affects the intensity of radiation emitted by elements. ज्या एलिमेंटनं जे रेडिएशन्स इमिट केलेलं आहे त्याच्याबरोबर ते इंटरफेअर होऊ शकतं. ओके, सो दॅट इज द presence of cation or presence of anion, it will react with the analytes. So oxalate, phosphate, sulfate, these are the anions. So when they are present in the solution, they may affect the intensity of the radiation emitted by the elements. For example, calcium and phosphate ions form stable substances such as the calcium phosphate, which do not decompose easily, resulting in the production of lesser atoms. So what we have seen here, if they are thermally stable, it is difficult to break, or it is difficult to decompose that substance. Means out of 100%, only 60 or 70%, 60 or 70% only reaction, only their determination can be done. Okay, so if calcium and phosphate are there, so phosphate is the anion. Okay, so there is a calcium phosphate is present. When we have to hit the calcium phosphate, it should be converted into the calcium ions and phosphate ions. But due to this thermal stability, it is difficult to break. It is difficult to break the calcium phosphate into their individual ions. So the resulting in the production of lesser atoms. So the readings is less. Hence, we are not getting the 100% correct reading. Second one, cation interference. So this is the cation anion. This is the second one, cation interference. So these interference are neither spectral or non-ionic in nature. So aluminum interferes with the calcium and magnesium. That is the example of cation interference. Okay, so this is the chemical interference. That is the first type of the interference. That is the chemical interference. Now we are going to the second type. That is the physical interference. So this physical interference, it includes the viscosity, solvent, and ionization. So they are physically interfere with the reading, hence they call it the physical interference. So viscosity, how it interferes? So viscosity is inversely proportional to the intensity of absorption. Okay, so viscosity जर चेंज झाली तर reading सुद्धा change होऊ शकते as it is directly inversely proportional to the intensity of absorption. So if it will change its intensity of absorption, it will also change. So viscosity कमी झाली, reading वाढणार. Viscosity कमी झाली, reading वाढणार. Viscosity जास्त झाली, reading कमी येणार. So if we are changing the viscosity or the viscosity may be changed, it will change the readings. Then second one, solvent. So organic solvent increases the intensity and aqueous solvent decreases the intensity of absorption. So these solvents also interfere with the results. If organic solvents are present and it completely not undergo the vaporization. So आपलं जे सॅम्पल आहे सपोज NaCl सोल्युशन आहे. सो NaCl सोल्युशन म्हणजे काय NaCl प्लस वॉटर. ओके, सो ॲक्वियस सोल्युशन असतं. व्हेन वी आर हिटिंग सगळं जे ॲक्वियस असतं ते वेपर होतं. बट इफ दे ट्रेसेस रिमेन्स इन द substance, so it may interfere with the result. How they interfere? So this aqueous solvent, it will decrease the intensity of absorption, so the reading will be changed. Okay, if organic solvent is there, then this organic solvent increases the intensity. Okay, for the MCQs they may ask the question, if organic solvent is present, what happens? It rate on the intensity. So you can say if organic solvents are present, the intensity increases, and if aqueous solvents are present, the intensity decreases. That is the second part. Third part, ionization. So this occurs due to the high flame temperature. So the number of vaporized atom becomes ionized by the flame, resulting into the ion absorbed different wavelength than the vaporized atoms. The new wavelength will not be selected by the monochromator and low results occurs. Okay, so when temperature having high flame temperature is there, सो जे वेपराइज ॲटम झालेले असतात ते सगळे आयोनाइज होतात. त्यामुळे आयोनाइज झालेले ॲटम्स असतात त्याचं कॉन्सन्ट्रेशन आहे ते वाढतं दॅन द वेपराइज ॲटम. सो आपल्याला ॲक्च्युली वेपराइज पाहिजे असतात, बट इन्स्टेड ऑफ वेपराइज दे अंडरगो द आयोनायझेशन. सो इट मे रिझल्ट्स इन टू द लो results. So it will vaporize atoms, the new wavelength will not be selected by the monochromator and low results can be occur. So for example, sodium ions plus electrons. So sodium releases the electron. So overcome by addition of more easily ionizable element. Okay. So the ionization interference of sodium is corrected by addition of potassium to the sodium. So त्याच्यामध्ये सोडियम मध्ये पोटॅशियम जर ऍड केलं तर सोडियमचं आयोनायझेशन होण्याऐवजी पोटॅशियमचं आयोनायझेशन होईल आणि सोडियम विल रिमेन इंटॅक्ट. सो वी विल गेट द बेटर result. So these are the three types of physical interference, or these are the three parts due to which the physical interference will occur. What is the first part? First part is the viscosity. If the viscosity increases, then the intensity of absorption decreases, and if viscosity decreases, intensity of absorbance increases. Then solvent. So if solvent is not vaporized properly, if some amount of traces of solvent, it will remain in the solid residue, so it may occur in the result, and it may changes the result. So if aqueous solution is present, aqueous solvent is present, it will decrease the intensity of absorbance. And if non-aqueous or the organic solvents are present, so it will increases the intensity. And third one, ionization. If ionization occurs other than the vaporization, so आपल्याला काय पाहिजे रिझल्ट साठी, the targeted element आहे, it must be vaporized. So vaporized पेक्षा जर त्याचं आयोनायझेशन झालं तर आयोनायझेशन झालं तर काय होणार, it will result into the लो रिझल्ट, कारण आपल्याला वेपराईज पाहिजे. 100% वेपराईज होण्याऐवजी 50% वेपराईज झालं, 50% आयोनाइज झालं, तर फक्त वेपराईज जे 50% त्याच्यापासून आपल्याला रिझल्ट मिळणार. सो विच इज रिमेन आयोनाइज 50%, we will not get the results due to that 50% ionizable. So it will results into the low results. Okay, so how you can overcome this? So in case of sodium, we can add potassium, so that instead of sodium, potassium ions will go the ionization instead of sodium. So sodium ions, it will remain intact in the vaporized state, and we will get the better result. Then last type of spectral interference is spectral interference. So this spectral interference occurs. So what is the principle? So radiations of specific wavelength, they are passed through this vaporized atom, which is the targeted atom. Okay, so only that some of it will absorb, some will be transmitted, and the transmitted will be detected and it is recorded. So what happens if two elements, they having the nearly same wavelength or the nearly same specific wavelength? So at that time this spectral interference will occur. So if they having the nearly same wavelength, so if the given mixture, suppose there is metal A and B, okay, A's wavelength 250, B 249.5. So when in the mixture, suppose mixture मध्ये A आहे plus B आहे plus C आहे plus D आहे. So when a specific wavelength, आपण जर 250 ची wavelength pass केली, तर actually 250 फक्त A absorb करतं. So A will absorb the 250 nanometer wavelength. But what happens, this B also having the nearly same wavelength as compared to the A. So some amount of B or some part of B, it will also accept this wavelength, but in very small amount. So due to that, we are getting the results of A along with the small amount of B. So we are not getting the actual result or the proper result. So this is called as the spectral interference. Okay, so why spectral interference occurs? When we have to determine one element, and that element's specific wavelength is nearly equal to the specific wavelength of other elements, and if we are passing the specific wavelength, so both will absorb this wavelength and we are getting the result of that A plus some amount of B. So we are not getting the exactly 100% correct result, because B is also absorb some kind of the given radiation. So that is the spectral interference. Okay, so it is the first type of interference arises when two elements exhibit the spectra which partially overlap and both emit the radiations at same particular wavelength. So ferrous metal, it having 324.73, copper it is having 324.75, so only 0.02 nanometer difference is present. So at that time the spectra which is arises due to the ferrous as well as due to the copper, they will overlap. Okay, so how we can overcome this problem? So this problem can be overcome either by taking the measurement at alternative wavelength which has no overlap if available, or by removing the interfering element by the extraction. याचा अर्थ काय, एक तर फेरस किंवा कॉपर असेल त्यातले एकाच एलिमेंटचे एका रिझल्ट घ्या. फेरस असेल तर डोंट टेक कॉपर, कॉपर असेल तर डोंट टेक फेरस, or measure the, if given mixture consists of ferrous as well as copper, then measure the wavelength at alternative, measure the results with the alternative wavelengths such that they will not overlap. So this is the solution for this one. Then second type of spectral interference deal with the spectral lines of two or more elements which are close but their spectra do not overlap. Okay, so पहिल्यामध्ये त्याचा स्पेक्ट्रल ओव्हरलॅप होतो, दुसऱ्यामध्ये त्याचा स्पेक्ट्रा ओव्हरलॅप होत नाही, but they having the wavelength nearly same. Okay, so it can be reduced. What is the, how you can overcome this second type of spectral? It can be reduced by increasing the resolution of spectral isolation system. Resolution power आहे ती वाढवायची. So 374, suppose ए आहे तुमचं ग्राफ आहे. ओके, ग्राफला जर पाच पाचचे केलं 320 म्हणजे 5 10 15 20 असे जर तुम्ही ॲक्सिसवर पॉईंट टाकत गेलात सो तुमचं काय येणार 320 आणि 320 असं जर असेल तर तुम्हाला हे ओव्हरलॅप झालेले दिसतील. पण तेच 320.1 320.2 320.3 असे जर 0.11 ऍड करत गेला किंवा 320.01 320.05 320.10 सो असं पाच पाच 0.05 ने तुम्ही ऍड करत गेला तुम्हाला हे जे दोन मिळणारे स्पेक्ट्रल लाईन्स आहेत ते स्पेक्ट्रल लाईन्स आपल्याला ओव्हरलॅप न दिसता वेगवेगळे झालेले दिसतील. ओके, so that is the second type of spectral interference. Okay, so these are the different types of interference. Okay, first one is the chemical interference, in that cation anion or the cation cation. Second one is the physical interference, in that viscosity, solvent and ionization comes. And third one spectral interference, in that first type मध्ये spectra overlap होतो. Then second type मध्ये spectral lines are close but they are not overlapping. Okay, so in that first type of interference and second type of interference. Okay, so this is about the interference. We are moving to the last part of the syllabus, that is the applications. Okay, so they are useful for the quantitative as well as the qualitative analysis. That means quantitative means we can find out the concentration, in qualitative means we can find out the which is present. So in this qualitative analysis. Okay, so applications, they are useful for the analysis of water, soil and air samples. So they consist of generally some traces of the metals, that is the pollutants. So to find out how much it is present and which pollutants are present in these water, soil and air, we can go for the atomic absorption spectroscopy, as it can determine if the number of samples are present or the number of mixtures is present, number of metals is present in the given mixture. Second one, analysis of food samples for the metallic content. So in the given food, how much amount of metal it is present? Is it adulterant? What is the concentration? Which adulterant is present? Which metal is present? So all these we can find out with the help of atomic absorption spectroscopy. Then determination of trace elements in various samples. Then analysis of biological samples such as blood, plasma, serum, calcium, magnesium, etc. if it is present, because in our body there is presence of different metals like calcium, iron is present, sodium is present. So how much amount they are present? For that analysis of this biological sample, this atomic absorption spectroscopy, this method can be used. Then in the petrol, lead is present. So how much amount it is present? So determination of lead in petrol or identification of lead in petrol, it can be done with the help of atomic absorption spectroscopy. Then hair analysis for heavy metal poisoning, and atomic absorption spectroscopy can be used for both, that is the quantitative as well as the qualitative analysis. Okay, so these are some applications of atomic absorption spectroscopy. So these atomic absorption spectroscopy can be used for the qualitative analysis as well as the quantitative analysis. For the quantitative analysis, there are different methods are used: the calibration curve method, standard addition method, internal standard addition method. So in the calibration curve method, concentration against absorbance is plotted. Then we are getting the straight line passing through origin. Then of unknown substance, we are taking the absorbance and it is plotted against this perpendicular. So this again plotted to the extrapolated to the x axis, and this amount it indicates the concentration of the unknown substance. So that is the calibration curve method. So A is directly proportional to the concentration absorbance. In this method, the substance of unknown is first found out by aspirating into flame against blind. Then series of standards having definite amount plus varying amount of standard are prepared. They are diluted. Then their absorbance are obtained. So the absorbance standard concentration against absorbance, the graph is plotted. This graph must be passes through origin, and when they passes through origin, we are taking the unknown sample, the concentration of unknown sample to be determined. Then we are extrapolating on, suppose this is the absorbance of unknown sample, so extrapolating on this graph and then extrapolating to the x-axis. Here the concentration which is present, it indicates the concentration of unknown sample, that is the standard addition method. So this is graph for the standard addition method. Here we are getting the concentration of unknown sample. Okay, so that is standard addition. This is calibration curve method. This is standard addition method. This is internet standard addition method, where we are plotting concentration against AX by AT. Then we are getting the straight line passing through origin. Then by finding the amount of absorbance on the X by AT of unknown sample, we can extrapolating in this on this graph and then extrapolating to the x-axis, we are getting the concentration of unknown sample which is present in the given sample. Okay, so in this way we can go for the quantitative analysis.